whirlwind. You find out you have stage 4 breast cancer. You go through different phases of being angry. You go through so many mixed emotions.
And all I could do was call on God, I didn't even cry. I just called on God.
I think the biggest thing is just reminding women that they need to take time to take care of themselves.
Hi, I'm Bayla Walker, and welcome to this special edition of News 4. The CDC says except for skin cancer, the most common cancer in women around the country is breast cancer. It's also the second leading cause of death in women overall. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and that's why we want to look out for you with the Pink Plan. Over the next half hour, we'll hear stories from survivors, fighters, and experts to really break down the myths associated with this disease. Plus, find out how you can help raise awareness 365 days a year. And most people hear breast cancer and assume it's a disease that women only over 40 should really worry about. We sat down with survivors in our area, and they say that's far from the truth.
17 years ago, I found a lump in my left breast, and I went to the doctor for it, and they told me that it was a milk dud and not to worry, that it would go away. But during that time frame, I just felt like something wasn't right. Went back to the doctor. That Thursday afternoon, I got a call from Dr. Lennox, told me that I have breast cancer and that I needed to get back in to see him as soon as possible so that they could come up with a plan for me.
So I was 30 years old, and of course, at that age, when something pops up, you think it's absolutely nothing, you're too young for any type of cancer, but a lump popped up one day, and I went to the doctor immediately, and they said, let's get you in for a mammogram, because obviously I wasn't having those at that point, at that age. Down the road, we found out that it was actually stage 2 breast cancer. Obviously scared about the future, but I just picked myself up and went to the doctor. But I knew I had to do it, and I knew that I needed to be strong for my kids.
I was at Southeast Medical. That's where I did my mammogram at the mammogram center. And they had sent me a letter to come back, and I did. I went back, and they took me back to the room, and they told me that I got diagnosed with breast cancer. All I could do was call on God, I didn't even cry. I just called on God.
And right now, we are joined by those survivors. Please help me in giving a very warm welcome to Miss Kimberly Thomas, Mary Floyd, and Kelly Cundiff. Welcome, ladies. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. Now, Miss Mary, watching that video back, you said when you first found out about the disease that you've been diagnosed, you said all you could do was call on God. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. When I went to get my results of my test, when she called me into the office and she told me that I was positive for breast cancer, and I couldn't do nothing. All I could do was call on God. That's all I could do. I couldn't cry. I didn't cry. All I could do was call on him. And I know that was the one to call upon. Mm-hmm. And she told me that, Miss Mary, it's not the end of the world. And that brought, comfort to me. She says, it's not in the world, because it's so much out there now that we can do for it. And I was thankful for that. And I've been having a supportive group. There's a lot of groups out there that you can go to and reach out to, and they will reach out to you, And my church family, my family, friends, they've been very supportive to me.
Yes, ma'am. We love to hear about that support. Did any of you have those moments when you find out and you were like, God, I don't know how I'm going to be able to do this, but I'm laying it in your hands?
Absolutely. I mean, when I went through it, I just kind of was in a state of confusion for a few days, but then I kind of snapped out of it and said, I'm going to do this, and I'll get through it.
What about you?
You have to have that strong faith, and then if you don't know God during that time, you will know him by the time you get finished, because it was a time to where, because I was young. I was diagnosed at 26. I'm 17 years in now, and I still call on God every day because I'm still doing the chemo form and pill form now. So every day is a survival day for me. So.
And you said you were diagnosed at 26, guys. Like, that's a very young age. A lot of people are like, that doesn't happen to me, right? So, I mean, how has that changed your perspective about this disease?
It's not a age limit to it. I mean, even from my surgeon to my oncology doctor, like everyone, that's like with the mammograms, it shouldn't be a age cap on women having to be 40 or 50 for a mammogram, because with my diagnosis, it didn't show up in a mammogram. I found a lump during the breastfeeding of my son. So it can happen to anyone.
So
no age.
What would you tell, I mean, you said no age. What would you tell a young woman right now? Should she get started with her mammograms right now? Should she wait? I mean, you going through this at such a young age. What would you tell her?
I would personally say during your menstrual cycle month, do your self-breast exams. If you notice anything abnormal with your body, a woman knows their body. Just follow up and get it taken care of right away.
Right. And Kelly, when we were speaking, you told me the hardest part was losing your hair.
Absolutely.
And can you just tell us about that experience and kind of what they did to you?
So I didn't want, my children were young at the time. They were 4 and 8. And I didn't want it to scare them because it is a big deal. That is part of our feminine, nature, our hair. And they went with me the day I decided I needed to shave my head. It was on my 31st birthday. I'll never forget it. And we did it together as a family. And I still get emotional about it, but it was showing them that Mom can do this and she's going to be okay. So, but it really was hard. I won't say that it wasn't. But it comes back with a vengeance. So
I see you rocking your hair now. You're confident. You're confident. And Miss Mary, you had to shave your hair too. So can you tell me about that?
Well, when I found out about it and I thought about it, and after I told my husband, and the hardest part was telling my son. That was the hardest part, telling him. And that night, a couple of nights, I said about a week later, I said, I'm going to go ahead and get it off before I see it falling. So I had it cut off, and it was okay.
Yeah, it was okay.
Yeah, it was okay.
It was okay.
I have to say, the lady that did it for me, because we had a little party with a wig ready for me, she said, "You're not ready." I said, "Oh, but I am, because I'm going to do this to myself and not let that define and do it to me."
Exactly, and I think that's a big thing here, not letting this define you.
Right. You know, when I lost my hair, it was my son's first birthday party that Saturday morning. I always wore my real hair up until that time. I had just got my hair done, wrapped, and when I unwrapped it, I would use a brush, and it just all came out in the sink. So I remember telling my brother, like, I didn't go outside that day. My son had the whole works, clown train party, everything, the one that I was pregnant with when I found out. It's Isaiah, he's actually 17 now. And I stayed in the room that whole day because I heard about it and I saw it, but I just, going through that experience of the hair loss, I couldn't fathom it. My hairstylist actually made me the wigs on the stocking cap to where I was embarrassed, I was afraid, and I didn't share it with people in the beginning until losing my sister and my aunt and close family members. That's what made me become more of a
confident and want to be out and share your story, just like
help people, encourage people, and get through it, because God didn't keep me here to not share my story.
Right, right. And it's all about sharing our stories. I know you guys all just talked about your children. I mean, so how was that process of telling them? Were you afraid that you would scare them? I mean, you said you were afraid to really show them without your hair, but I mean, how was that with your children?
I just really, they didn't see the very scared part of me. I told them I was, but I didn't want them to worry. They were so young, and I wanted them to know Mom is going to be here with me. And I knew I would be, and I knew I could do it, but they even went with me to treatments before. because I also wanted to show them that if anything like that happens to them, because I do have the BRCA2 mutation, which they have a 50-50 chance of getting that, and I wanted to show them if this happens to you, you can do the same thing that I've done. And it's about showing other people, you know, your strength and courage to get through it.
Yep. Okay, well, wow, that, I mean, just listening to you guys has just inspired me so much. I know the children are really blessed to have you all as beautiful mothers here. Well, guys, stay with us. We have more on the Pink Plan in your full Forewarned Weathercast after the break. A breast cancer warrior right here in the Wiregrass. We share her story, plus an inside look on her road to recovery, right here on the Pink Plan. Alabama's top health experts are predicting 4,500 new cases of breast cancer in women this year alone. They are also expecting close to 720 deaths from the disease. And one of those new cases reported this year came from a woman right here in the Wiregrass. Her name is Shalana Brown, and she joins us now. How are you, Shalana?
I'm well. How are you?
You look well. You look beautiful. I'm pretty sure everybody can agree.
Thank you. We all look wonderful.
Of course, of course. So you were just diagnosed, right?
Yes.
So can you tell us how life has been? I mean, walk us from the very beginning, whenever you first found out, and just how life has been after.
Well, I found out I was in school teaching my students. I'm a reading interventionist teacher, and so I got the call, and I, asked my students to resume doing their work and let me take this very important phone call. So I stepped to the side, and the nurse like, Miss Brown, we got the results back from your biopsy, and we noticed that the lymph nodes was benign, but the tumor that you had in your breast, your right breast, was malignant. So in that moment, she said, so you have breast cancer. I said, excuse me, could you please restate that again for me? And she said, you have breast cancer, Ms. Brown. I said, okay. She said, do you have any questions? I said, right at this moment, I don't have any questions. Right at this moment, I'm still trying to process it all. And so she said, Ms. Brown, I'm going to give you my name and my number, and you call me if you have any questions. Immediately after that, my oncologist, Dr. Stone, she called me, and she, Dr. Steele contacted me, and she called me. She said, Ms. Brown, I just got the news. She said, I want you to be aware that you're in Houston, Texas, and we got one of the best hospitals here, which is MD Anderson. I've already sent your referral over, Ms. Brown. I want you to immediately after this phone call, go ahead and call them so they can schedule your appointment. And you have all the admission completed. And so she expedited it very quickly, and I was well pleased with how well she expedited it. And I stayed teaching the entire process while I was undergoing chemo. I think I did about 12 treatments, and I stayed teaching the entire time.
Right, so I want to talk about that. You continue to teach, continue to show up and be really strong for your students. So just talk to me about that, and really what was in your brain telling you, like, I need to keep going?
Because I have a passion for education, and I have a passion for children and learning. I owed it to my scholars to get the best education that they could possibly get so that they can progress and compete in the world. So I think that motivated me more, and it gave me an opportunity to teach them about breast cancer and the awareness of it. It was another way for me to bring awareness about breast cancer. And I gotta say that my principal and the teachers there, they were amazing. My principal cut her hair for me. That was just overwhelming. I was so grateful, so grateful. And just to have that support from your principal and your students. I know I got more hugs after they find out I had breast cancer. I got about 30, 40 hugs a day.
Oh my, I know we all could go with hugs, right?
And I appreciated it so much.
And you talk about that support from your principal and everyone at your school. I mean, how important was that? And I want you all, I mean, how important is the support at that time going through this?
It's very important.
It matters.
It matters because you'll sit there and you'll drown in your sorrows. If you don't have no one to talk to you and support you on this stuff, it will
Bring you down.
bring you down. And you got to keep moving. You can't just sit there. You got to keep going. I kept moving. I didn't have a job, you know, because I'm disabled. I didn't have a job, but I kept moving. I kept moving. Whatever I could do, I did it. You know.
What about you, Miss Kelly?
I mean, the support is what got me through, and God and praying and things, but just people rallying around you makes you stronger, makes you know that you can get through it.
Right. And Miss Kim, I know that you love the women and you love the women in this community. How was that support for you?
It was good, and it has to be positive support.
Yes.
It has to be people that has faith and people that know that you're going to be okay. People to say you can do this. People to say that you're going to get through this, because I actually worked during my whole time of the hardest treatment. I was actually doing chemo every other week and radiation every day during my treatment process. And I was a store manager at Dollar General at that time when I found out, and it was hard. But it was like, sometimes it's like I had to choose between going to work, getting a paycheck this week, or going to get treatment. And I thank God for my older sister, her husband, because they were the ones that took me for my treatment. When I had to go through the harsh part of the chemo, which is called a red devil, I had to take the strongest of the chemo, and they would admit me in Flowers Hospital at 8 o'clock in the morning. I would have to stay there from 8 to 4:30 in the afternoon to get my treatment. So it's a lot of things that people don't know behind the scenes. And so my kids is what kept me going, looking at them, and I'm like, God, I gotta be here. My kids need me. Like, I gotta get through this. I can do this. And they don't know the ins and outs. They don't know how the chemo make you feel. They don't know you can't keep any food down. They don't know how hard it is, how you get burned in your mouth, how you get burned on your skin, how your stomach hurts, it knocks up, the sharp pains in your legs and headaches, just everything. That chemo's a struggle. It was days where I could remember telling my sister, I just don't think I can go today. And she would say, you gotta go. You just got 4 more to go. You just got, and then I even went through a phase of my body rejected the chemo because it was so intense, it was so much, to where I literally done chemo for a whole year because my body went through a phase of rejecting the treatment. So I had to take a break from the chemo because I was doing chemotherapy and radiation at the same time. So it's like I had to take a 2-month break in between that. So it was a lot.
And so that positive support is really what's needed to go through that, to get you through that, to get you just to want to wake up every single day and fight. So how does it feel for you to just have the support of all of us here and the support of all your friends and family?
It's amazing how God orchestrates it. How he puts it together, and how we can, as ladies who have experienced the same disease, you know, to come together at one table and talk and can understand each other and embrace each other with sincerity and love. And I think when I came home, because I was in Houston with no family, but God allowed my school to be there to support me. My principal even took me to treatment sometimes. Right? So I even had teachers take me to treatment sometimes. So I consider that a blessing because they didn't have to do that. But they did it because they supported me.
Right, support, that's what we are all about here at News4. That's what we're all about in the community, support, guys. And thank you for this huge support group that we have, for sharing your stories. They are beautiful. Well, guys, stay with us. We have more of the Pink Plan after the break. Thanks for staying with us for the Pink Plan. Now, many women feel it's a hassle to get mammograms, leading some to not even getting screened at all. Radiation oncologist Dr. Jared Atkinson at Southeast Health says there's a new, easy process for you to schedule one at any place, at any time.
Process is easier than it's ever been. The guidelines have been updated now. Women are recommended to begin screening at age 40. Previously, the age had been 45 to 50, and so now at age 40, when a woman turns 40, it's recommended she go ahead and get her mammogram schedule as a screening study. If a woman wants to have schedule her own mammogram, she doesn't have to necessarily go to the doctor and get an order and then have the mammogram done. She can actually call herself if it's just a screening mammogram where she's not having any specific problems and she just wants to have the mammogram performed. If it's been over a year since her last mammogram, she can just call and schedule her own mammogram. They can call 793-8006 and they can just schedule their own mammogram. And women to take time to do this for themselves. You know, I think most of the time women are so busy, you know, taking care of their families, taking care of their children, taking care of their career, but they need to take time to take care of themselves. And so, you know.
And taking care of yourself is the most important thing. Southeast Health says if you do decide to schedule your mammogram online or by phone, you might be able to get your results within the same day with MyChart. Now, guys, we have talked a lot about your experiences, your struggles, the beauty, and just being strong and just owning yourself. So do you guys have any tips to tell women out there that might be watching this, that might be going through this? Any tips for them?
Well, I know, when you go get your mammogram, please go back and get the results, please. And go out and get your mammogram, please.
Mine would be, like she said earlier, we know our bodies.
Right.
Not everybody else does. So you have to be vigilant and check things out. And if something worries you or bothers you, you should always ask and check into it. So be vigilant about your health care.
Yeah.
Right.
Ms. Kim?
And just don't ignore the signs. I would say don't ignore the signs and just take out the time. You see so many, I know you're busy and different things like that, but even, like I said, in my case, it didn't show up in the mammogram. I found a lump. So even during the breastfeeding, new mothers, you have a lump, get it checked out.
Right. And Ms. Shalana, any advice for women right now?
Well, all of them gave great, wonderful answers. But I think women, what I want to share with women is to realize that when you find out that you have cancer early on, 85% of the women survive in the earlier stages, right?
Right.
So I think that's something to encourage you to go get that mammogram, to go get your results, right? Eat healthy, walk, exercise, be around good people that encourage you and motivate you through the process.
Right, and I'm glad that you brought up that statistic, guys, because it's very important for people, especially in our area, the women, to go and get their mammograms and just go get checked at any age, at any time. If you feel something, like you said, Kelly, you know your body. Us women, we know our bodies. We know what feels right, what feels wrong. So it's very important to get those mammograms. It's really important to just sit down and have conversations like this with women who have gone through it, with women who are going through it right now, just to let people know that it's going to be fine.
It's going to be fine.
It's gonna be
Of
fine.
course. Well, thank you, ladies, for
Thank you.
coming.
Thank
I've
you.
enjoyed you guys, and
Thank you for
I just want to
having
thank
us.
you guys for tuning in to News4's special edition of the Pink Plan.
Thank you.
Of course.